As healthcare evolves, staying ahead of technology trends is essential for practitioners and leaders around the world. As we navigate through the complexities of digital transformation, the big questions keep coming up. How can artificial intelligence shape the future of healthcare? What does sustainability look like in our industry? And as we move forward, what are the next big topics and innovations that healthcare professionals need to be aware of? On the show today is Hal Wolf, President and CEO of HIMSS, who advocate for the transformation of healthcare through information and technology. And in this episode, we talk about key highlights and must-see speakers and topics at the upcoming HIMSS 24 and critical issues that they address, the role of artificial intelligence in healthcare, its current impacts and future potentials, and an overview of the modernised INFRAM and its significance for healthcare leaders. Collaboration starts with a conversation, Team HealthTech. Let's make it happen.
Welcome to Talking HealthTech, featuring content and community about technology and healthcare. We acknowledge the traditional owners of lands these conversations were recorded and pay respect to elders past and present.
G'day, Hal. How are you going?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we could find a time that aligns on both sides of the world. I'm excited to have a chat with you about healthcare globally and the exciting things happening at HIMSS as well. But firstly, it might be great to get you to provide a bit more context. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do and HIMSS as well.
Sure. Well, I'll start with myself. I'm Hal Wolf. I'm president and CEO of HIMSS, which is the Health Information Management and Systems Society. It's a global nonprofit with a little over 125,000 members across the world. We're very proud of that. We've grown tremendously in the last few years. Our mission statement is to reform the global health system through the power of information and technology. And our vision statement is to realize the full health potential of every human everywhere. I've had the honor of leading HIMSS over the last 6 years, now into my 7th year, and have been in healthcare and starting in healthcare IT 20 years ago. And HIMSS has been a big part of that journey for me. I served on the board for 4 years before I had the honor of taking on this role. And HIMSS started in 1961. It started in academic medical centers and then grew tremendously across North America and then has grown incredibly across the globe in the last 4 years.
Definitely a global presence and awareness and, known for community and information and events and all the things that are important to bring the healthcare system together. I saw recently a rather significant announcement around a collaboration that HIMSS has had with Informa Markets as well. I'd love to just building on that then and the legacy and history of HIMSS and then this new collaboration with Informa. Tell me a little bit more about that and what that means.
Yeah, it was a really big decision. It was something that was on our strategic roadmap actually for the last 5 years, and then we found the right partner. HIMSS operates a number of events around the globe, and the biggest one is, in fact, the global conference, the HIMSS Global Conference. We operated for 25 plus years, and it's done very, very well. It had a huge comeback in 23, over 33,000 people coming back in, which was a big deal after the pandemic, as you can imagine. But we always wanted to be able to take a step back, if you would, on the operational side of the global conference itself. It takes a tremendous amount of internal resources and focus. We're very good at focusing on the content side of it. And we did a tremendous job on the operation side, but again, a lot of resources. And what we wanted to do is to be able to find a global partner that could operate large scale events that would understand the value of HIMSS content and its membership and help us focus and grow in those areas of membership value. And we entered into discussions for about a year. And then we had discussions with Informa, and we really felt that we found an amazing partner, someone who could understand and operate things at scale. I think you were just at Arab Health this past week, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is also, operated by Informa. So they have a methodology and a capability to bring a lot of incredible experience to the people who attend, to the market suppliers, and just to general functions. And our expertise on the content side, the panels, the education, and the forward-thinking thought leadership, which HIMSS is known for. So we've been working together now since August and the announcement that took place, and we just couldn't be more pleased. It's actually gone smoother than we expected. There were a number of people from HIMSS that went over to Informa to help and to work with them and be Informa employees. And, working through, and now I think we're about 5 weeks away from global conference. We're getting really excited.
Yeah. I like that. It's you've still obviously got the focusing on the core for HIMSS and really adding value to members in that side and building that strong collaborative partnership then and allowing groups to do what they do best, I guess. That's how I've kind of interpreted that because, as you say, Informa, they do very big events very well from what I can tell. I can't even organize a barbecue with half a dozen mates on the weekend, but I can't even imagine how the logistics of pulling something together like that. So partnering with the right people there sounds pretty critical and important, obviously for you too, because you've got the global conference coming up, HIMSS 24. I've had a little bit of a look around and getting a bit of a sneak peek into speakers and topics and everything. I'd love to hear from you about, what we can expect from attending HIMSS 24.
Yeah, I think you're going to find HIMSS 24 incredibly stimulating. The presence on a global basis of policymakers, both from the United States, Canada, Europe in particular, Asia, is quite impressive this year. And it comes at a remarkable time. We're looking at legislation, whether you're looking in the European market, you're looking in the Asia Pac, you're looking in the United States around AI, data security. All of these things are happening. And at the same time, you're going to see the usual and amazing keynotes are going to be coming from CEOs of healthcare systems, pharma companies, different ministries, as we talked about before. But there's some really functional areas in healthcare that are the focus point. I think we're all figuring out, again, how to utilize AI as a tool and understanding the many layers it can be involved in along with machine learning. We're thinking about cybersecurity as a critical function. The adoption and sustainability is a big issue as well this year. So you're going to see a number of areas really focusing on the outcomes, quality, and access to data and information. It's going to be, as usual, a real society event. And that's really the key to HIMSS. It makes it so uniquely different from any other healthcare event really in the world. It's right there in the name of society. It's a multidisciplinary environment. It really attracts everything from doctors to nurses to technician, to people in IT and to operations, finance. They all come to share, learn, exchange ideas, hundreds of panels that are put on by members, incredible panels on stage and keynotes. So it should be quite an event this year in Orlando.
Yeah. I think you touched on some really good points there in terms of hot topics within the ecosystem that would be on the mind of anyone working in healthcare right now around the world. In particular, you mentioned AI as a tool. I'd love to unpack that a little bit more in terms of how you're thinking about how AI is going to really shape the landscape now, because it's certainly the hot topic.
Yeah, I stole a line, if you would, from one amazing person from the French delegation at a WHO meeting last year, talking about the fact that AI is a tool, not a target. So it's an important step because it has a lot to do with the mindset. But let's take a step back if we can. Healthcare has some really significant challenges in front of it. We have an aging population that continues to grow. We have significant staff shortages at the clinician level globally, and that gap continues to grow. We have a tremendous amount of financial strain, which is happening on healthcare systems. And we have a consumer market that is used to doing a lot of things by themselves at home through their phone. and they want connectivity more than they want a face-to-face encounter. What can I do within the four walls of my home versus a 3-hour journey for a 20-minute or 10-minute event inside a particular clinic, if you're lucky enough to get to a clinic. So geographic displacement being set aside, really what's happening is healthcare is looking for solutions that can do amazing predictive modeling, can do healthcare monitoring at the individual level, and really help the clinicians and help the hospitals and the clinics themselves create, if you would, an electronic triage system that allows for them to be able to judge, well, this is a person I need to see now, versus routine care that can be done on monitoring basis through devices that may be in someone's home or on their hand or in a phone or whatever the case may be. So AI plays a critical role in that. Artificial intelligence of looking at data, trying to find capabilities or make predictive modeling suggestions to clinicians, etc., that would be able to look up and say, I need to act on this patient at this time. If you would, identify the anomaly before it occurs, which is what healthcare is. Healthcare is about what is an anomaly, and at the individual level, how do you identify it? Something's gone wrong or is about to, and how do I fix it? So AI can help with that predictive modeling. So I think what we're saying is just a lot of people playing with it, little tiny doses sometimes in applications in the background, using it for operational efficiencies. And then at the highest level, where people have natural and appropriate concerns, is when it gets into the predictive modeling of suggestions for care. How do we do that in a proper way, in an orderly way, and so that it's transparent at the same time? So those are some of the multi-layers of AI. I threw a lot at you. I apologize, but I think it's really a unique space right now.
Yeah, no, it is, and similar thinking in terms of those different layers or applications of AI in a healthcare setting. And there's probably some quick wins or some not easier applications, but less friction behind the scenes. But then as we move up that chain to the closer it gets to the patient care side, there's certainly opportunity. But I guess the need for standards and education and information available. And I think about the role of HIMSS in that, then just generally in healthcare informatics and information systems and everything. That's something that HIMSS does quite a lot. And I've seen that you've also recently, just shifting tracks a little bit, you've also launched, is it the modernised INFRAM? I'd love to understand the model a little bit more, particularly for our hospital folk or our data geeks out there, but also that what it means for healthcare leaders in particular about this modernised INFRAM and what that's about.
Yeah. So INFRAM is one of the maturity models that HIMSS makes available throughout the world. We're a global nonprofit, and we do make it available, and people can actually access it for very little to do assessments and validations to test their systems. Infrastructure model really has been a 2-year effort to think about what is the back-end systems necessary and critical, if you would, for the development of system platforms and for operational leads, with a major focus on cybersecurity, adoption of new technologies, sustainability around the eco input of the back-end systems, fundamental performance of an infrastructure and the healthcare system itself, and then the outcomes that are achieved by it. And how do you develop the back end? So like all of our maturity models starting at level 0 and then working their way up to level 7, any system can follow what is, in effect, a tremendously laid out strategic capability that a lot of people just don't have access to without that ability to understand what's going on around them. So INFRAM has really been just an incredible focus for us. We updated our electronic medical record maturity model, INFRAM, in 22, launched it in 23. We're not numbering the INFRAM update, but it is really quite brilliant, and people who have been taking it, working on it in the beta section have just been thrilled with the outcomes. So there'll be a number of sessions at the HIMSS Connect booth on INFRAM during the global conference, and of course on the website at hims.org, etc.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to when I'll be there at HIMSS 24 in Orlando. I'll definitely be popping by to check out some of those sessions because I can see the definite use case there. I was thinking too, you mentioned when you were speaking about the different topics and themes that you expect to see discussed at HIMSS, you mentioned sustainability. And I think about a little bit historically, this topic of sustainability, it's one that certainly is taken seriously at a board level, and it's important that it's incorporated into, your annual statements to demonstrate that, we're building a sustainable organization. I get the vibe that in the last couple of years, maybe even in the last 2 or 3 years in particular, in the digital health space, depending on the circles you run, it certainly has come to the surface as a topic that is much more important than ever to prioritize. When we're in this digital space and we're talking about healthcare innovation, where do you see these opportunities to focus on sustainability, and why is it such a big issue?
Yeah, it's a great question because really we have to start with the word sustainability itself. The tricky part in healthcare is that we use sustainability 3 different ways. And so let's get to the environmental impact on sustainability in just a moment, which is really our soup du jour. But there are 2 sustainabilities that come before it. One, and this started 20 years ago, literally, was sustainability of primary care. We were very concerned about the collapse of primary care. And we used to talk about, we have to be able to sustain primary care. And as a number of physician leaders used to say, what a dismal way to think of a practice, right? My goal is to sustain it, not improve it, not to drive it, not to make it exciting, I just want to sustain, right? Right. So there's a sustainability of individual disciplines within healthcare that are under tremendous levels of assault. Primary care is certainly one of them. The next is a massive concern, which is sustainability of healthcare systems themselves. A number of healthcare systems are hitting a wall. They're hitting a wall financially. They're hitting a wall in terms of access to enough clinicians to take care of the populations that they're accountable for and their citizens. And that level of sustainability is kind of this big picture, if you would, that's going to hit it. And then we're also looking at this critical component of sustainability within carbon emissions and the environmental impact. And when you look at healthcare overall, globally, 5.2% of carbon emissions come from the healthcare sector. And in the United States, always looking to be number one, it's 8.5%, right? So right. Tongue in cheek in terms of that terrible number. But the fact of the matter is that we are consuming a tremendous amount of electricity, consumption of resources in order to sustain on the IT side the practices is where INFRAM starts to get into it. Now that piece of it now starts to take on really interesting questions. And I was having a conversation just this morning with some folks from the European Commission and the legislation that's moving through the EU at this time. And they're literally looking at it down to the application level. How do we encourage the utilizations of applications that reduce the amount of capacity from a computing standpoint, electricity standpoint, consumption standpoint? Because the more electricity that's consumed, the higher the carbon emissions on the backside. And part of the reason the United States has this significant increase over most in terms of carbon emissions is that we've been in the game on electronic medical records and back-end systems at scale much more than other countries until now. But with data space taking place in Europe, which is the funding of a lot of back-end infrastructure, this is really being thought of in the forefront. So we see sustainability on the carbon emission side and the development of applications to be, if you would, energy conscious as a critical part of the strategy in order to support the operational transformation that has to take place at healthcare systems just to sustain their basic practices. So it's a dueling sustainability where one is going to be a derivative of the other. The sustainability in the ecosystem will be a derivative of the redesign of back-end healthcare systems that are having to do that just as a sustained practice and to take care of all the patients that they have.
Absolutely. My mind does immediately go to the environmental impact, I guess, on sustainability. But as you suggest, that the term is one that we use regularly in healthcare to speak about the structures we have in place, the delivery of care, and how we do that. And it's all intertwined. And you're right, as we increase computing power and increase our focus on devices that are electronically powered and emit carbon. It's in an industry like healthcare that has such a positive societal impact, being closely aligned with the impact hopefully in a positive way on sustainability on all levels would be mission critical, I imagine.
Yes, it is, and you're touching on something in your comment that is so absolutely correct, which is, there's nothing in healthcare that stands alone.
Yeah.
Right. This is an interwoven ecosystem. So a doctor cannot stand alone. A doctor has to have a lot of components around them. A nurse has to have a lot of components around them. IT professionals need a lot of components around them. So when you look at moving something through healthcare, when you look at changing a carbon footprint, it's never as easy as, well, we'll just have better servers. You have to think strategically about, where's the data coming from? How am I going to access it? What does that infrastructure need to look like? How do I do it securely? And that takes strategy at the operational level. And it also takes the classic triangle: people, process, and technology. And those three have to go together to really figure out what you're going to do in order to impact sustainability. And it takes literally, if you would, the old adage, it takes a village, but it takes the entire global health ecosystem working collaboratively with each other. And that's why so many people come to HIMSS, because it's that one place that it actually occurs on a global basis.
I was just thinking that as you were saying it, so crucial that, and we talk about it on the podcast all the time about the importance of collaborating with different stakeholders. A lot of stakeholders in healthcare that are required to be able to deliver care effectively. And this strategic thinking is crucial, but it's not something you can always do within the busy day to day. So being able to network with colleagues from around the world at a particular location like HIMSS would be a good investment of time and everything. So I can see the value there. If I think about then, as we start to close out the conversation, then looking ahead and thinking about what are the priorities for HIMSS, a lot on the agenda and a lot of moving parts, but how are you all pulling together? What can we look forward to seeing from HIMSS this year and beyond?
Yeah, well, I think we started talking about it, but remember there's literally the tech and the business of it. So Venture Connect has been redesigned. This is one of the great advancements that Informa's brought in. There is an immense matching capabilities to make sure that we can connect startups with investors and individuals that are looking to find the right solutions. A new mobile app has been brought forward again through our great partnership with Informa. They've just done an amazing job. That literally you can say, get me to single sign-on, and it'll give you a list of places where it will show you where single sign-on is capable of being witnessed and seen, and give you guidance to get there, including a map. We're looking at kiosks that'll come up and make recommendations to you based upon where you've been at the conference, what might be of interest that's about to start from a presentation or a panel standpoint. We have a number of healthcare and hospital groups and leaders, whether it's Mayo Clinic or Cleveland Clinic representations, GVM from Italy, all across the globe. They're going to be represented at the global conference. And of course, there's always the education and the research components, whether it's Yale, Harvard, Columbia, Duke, Mass General, as well as universities from Europe that are participating. It's pretty great. And then you look up and you see, again, the classic representation at the government level. And everything from national institutions, whether it's the Health VA, the Veterans Group, the Office of National Coordinator of Health Information Technology, and also the policymakers, either from Congress, the EU, and many other countries from around the globe. So we're pretty excited about it. It's always this piece. When people come to HIMSS for the first time, they always look up and go, wow, there's so much. How do I navigate it? Yeah. And we always tell people, look, the first time you come, just be aware that it's a little overwhelming because there's so much to do. Come in with a game plan. What do you want to focus on, right? What do you want to learn? Because literally every subject in healthcare, largely speaking, that touches health IT is going to be around over 1,000 people, 1,000 companies exhibiting, 35,000 plus people attending. It's really quite amazing. And in this year in particular, Orlando, with all the new digital displays that's been brought in, I think people are going to find it very energizing.
Well, it'll be my first HIMSS experience for sure. I'm looking forward to attending, and I'll be wearing comfy shoes. Let's put it that way.
Listen, thank you for that. This is not the place to try new shoes. This actually happens every year. I'm going to be really think about it. Yeah. Every year, someone goes out,
buys brand new shoes
shoes, and you're going to do, and I'm not kidding, 15, 20, sometimes 25,000 steps a day.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Cool.
I mean, you're really, and you're walking fast, you're getting from one place to another. And by the time you're meeting your colleagues in the bar or the pub or the restaurant, or even in the hallways of the hotels, which by the way is where a lot of the great conversations take.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. As we would say where I'm from, those dogs are barking. So I have my pair of shoes that are ready to go.
Yeah.
They're broken in and they're polished. And I've got them set aside so nothing happens to them. Definitely wear comfortable shoes. Plus, we've got, Universal Studios and Walt Disney World and all the accompaniments that parties will be taking place at, depending upon where you go. And Orlando itself, which is actually a fun place to visit. So I think it's going to be, quite the stage this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing the crowds that show up, and there's a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm looking forward to capturing a lot of the content there at the event to bring back on the podcast, but hopefully see a lot of people there, and hopefully from Australia too. It's worth the trip over to check it out. So we'll put the details for HIMSS in the show notes of this episode. We'll make sure this episode's out in time for people to get themselves ready. Hal, I appreciate you making the time in the lead up to HIMSS 24 and all the cool things that are coming up. Thanks so much for having a chat.
Thank you so much for having me, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Orlando in a few weeks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Talking Health Tech. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this episode with someone who might find it valuable. For more information and resources about healthcare innovation, visit talkinghealthtech.com.